Sarah Polley is a director, an actor, an Oscar-nominated screenwriter, and now she has Golden Globe nominee for her work on her latest film, Women Talking. It's an adaptation of Miriam Toews' 2018 novel, and the story is based on actual crimes against Mennonite women who were drugged and abused by men in their community.
It was all waiting to happen before it happened. You could look back and follow the breadcrumbs along the path that led to violence. When we looked back, it had been everywhere.
It is a part of our faith to forgive. We would be forced to leave the colonies if we do not forgive these men.
Sarah joins us this morning in studio. Great to have you here, and congratulations on the 2 Golden Globe nominations for this.
Thank you so much.
The film is so beautiful. There's so much to love. It gives us so much to ponder and to think about even afterwards. It really stays with you. You've adapted other great Canadian authors' stories. What was it about this story that made you, also change a life decision at this point in your life to direct again and put this on film?
So I read Miriam Toews' book, Women Talking, close to when it came out, and I found it so searing and thought-provoking and fascinating and ultimately so hopeful. And I just didn't know how she'd done that with this subject matter. It felt like such a magic trick. So as soon as I read it, I started imagining it as a film. And then I saw that Frances McDormand and Dee Dee Gardner had optioned it. And I reached out to them. And on the same day, they reached out to me.
Wow.
So it felt very, very meant to be.
Like it was meant to be. Speaking of Frances McDormand, there's this cast that has come together. And I can't imagine both the thrill of having such experience to work with, but the challenge of having all of these greats on screen together. And when you were choosing the cast for this film, what were you looking for?
I mean, I knew I needed actors who had incredible technical skill, first of all, because it's so dialogue heavy, it's so intense. I knew it was going to be a pressure cooker in there. I knew I also needed actors who are going to be incredibly supportive to their other actors and make space, because there's so much dialogue and the scenes go on so long. There are times where some of these amazing actors who are at the top of their game were sitting off camera for 3 days just providing support to their fellow actors. So it was both who could bring these characters to life, who had the technical skill, but also who was going to be a community builder.
And you certainly have done that. I mean, each of these performances is so powerful to watch. I want to talk about the adaptation process, because one of the things that has changed a lot from the book for people who have read it is that the narrator has changed from the male character to female. Why did you make that choice? So
in Miriam's book, there is a male narrator, and it works beautifully. And I actually loved that about the book. It felt kind of radical in a way. Because it's not, as Miriam says, it's not just about women talking, it's about men listening. And we had that as, our operating principle when we made the film. We wrote it that way, I shot it that way. And then in the editing room, we kind of realized there was this distance between us and the experience. And we realized this needed to be told through the voice of one of the women who had experienced the assaults and maybe the youngest person in the room, and the amazing Kate Hallett, who's an incredible actor. This is her first role from Alberta, and we just realized we wanted more of her. We wanted to hear her voice, and so we rewrote the narration from her point of view.
Incredible. One of the choices that you've made in this film, and I think says a lot about you, about the life journey that you've been in, lessons that you've learned in your life, is this very obvious choice not to show the rape scenes. I remember reading Rose McEwen's book years ago, and she had this list of recommendations in the back to stop showing sexual violence on film. I don't need to see it as a woman to know that it's horrific, but it's how they process the aftermath, which is so true to life, because the abuse is a moment, but it's what happens afterwards and the power that's in the choice of how to respond. And that's what this film deals with.
Yeah, and it's about the impact on them, not the... And in a way, the film, I think, sounds so horrific when you think about what the backdrop is, but ultimately, I think the film is incredibly hopeful and optimistic. It's about the impact it's had on these women, but also about how they process it in community with each other, how they move forward, how they begin to imagine a better world together. And so focusing on the details of the assaults felt both gratuitous and totally unnecessary to the story that we were telling.
The story is amazing. I think people also connect a lot with you, having grown up watching you and then also knowing you as a director. And I think what was neat to learn was one of the choices that you made as a director to make sure that this film worked for everybody. And you changed the shooting schedule. And I love that you just changed the landscape in the industry.
Well, I mean, I knew as a parent of 3 little kids, 10-hour days are long days for most people in the film industry. They're revolutionarily short. We're used to working 14 to 16 to 18-hour days. So I knew that I needed a 10-hour day maximum to see my kids, but also I felt that all of the people I work with and my crew deserved that as well, that we shouldn't completely have to give up all of our caregiving responsibilities or domestic lives to be able to go to work. And so Fran and Dee Dee, my producers, were willing to make that change. And so we had those 10-hour days, and it made it possible for us to see our kids every night, which was amazing.
The performances are amazing, the story is powerful, and the telling is equally so. Sarah, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.